Bom dia, boa tarde ou boa noite. Hoje temos Sara BOTTICELLI. Sara descreve a sua jornada espiritual desde a infância, quando tinha um amigo imaginário, que lhe ensinou proteção energética e telepatia. Algo que ela pensava ser comum a todas as crianças. Apesar de não compartilhar suas experiências por achar que todos tinham as mesmas habilidades, o seu verdadeiro despertar espiritual só ocorreu aos 33 anos. Em março de 2020, começou a compartilhar seu trabalho espiritualmente no YouTube. Motivada pelas mudanças globais e pela necessidade de ser autêntica. Iniciou com conteúdo de liderança, que era seu campo profissional, e depois integrou astrologia e canalização para ajudar os outros a compreenderem a realidade. Agora, ela dedica-se a ajudar os outros a encontrar sua autenticidade e a se conectar com seus guias espirituais. Gostem, partilhem e subscrevam o canal Sinergias Holisticas, onde tudo somos todos nós.
October 2022.
Yes.
Oh my God. That's I love YouTube in a way where we get to transcend time and space. We get to have coffee and we get to meet across time and space and just spend time and talk about this world. It's so wild sometimes. And I'm really excited about your growth and about everything that you're doing. And it's just, thank you for inviting me here. It's a pleasure to be a part of this journey for you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I feel very peaceful and great tranquility.
Yes.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I've been practicing meditation, as you know. It's very nice.
Yes.
And I'm following this path. Signs. Sorry, in my throat. I drink fresh water and drink also.
Yes, it's funny. I went and I picked up water this morning. I was like,
Yes.
do you have time? Do you have time? I said, yeah, I had time. I picked up water this morning.
So, my spiritual path started when I was 13 years old with a book from two Frenchmen, two scientists Frenchmen, called in English, I think it's the Awakening of the Magician.
Yes.
You know the book?
What is the, I'm trying to
It's
think.
1955. It's 60, 70 years old. It's a very old book.
It's not The Alchemist, is it? Or the...
No, but it talks about alchemists. It talks
The
about
Waking of the Magician? I'm going to look into it. And
the Awakenings of the Magicians.
oh, thank you for the tip. I appreciate that. Tell me more.
So, since my 13th year, I read this book, but it was too difficult for a young boy. So I read it about 10 times, since 13 years to 16, 17 years old.
Yes.
Yes, and I have something special a special event in my life. When I was looking at a mirror, I see something that frightened me very much. So I start yelling and calling my brother, please, something is happening, and I don't know what happened until now. So from that, I start to be a little afraid, and I start to move away from spirituality. But since to 2022, an event that I restart put me again on the path of spirituality. You know the theme Twin Flames, yes?
Yes, I do know that theme, yes.
So this Twin Flame awakening, it's also the knowledge of ourselves, yes?
Yeah, very much so. And thank you for sharing. I find that sometimes it can be so jarring when you have those moments when they happen so young.
Yes.
And it can be, we can judge ourselves to say, oh, I closed down my intuition, I closed down my spirituality. But sometimes it's just having all of these awarenesses. And at that age, we wouldn't know what to do with it. We wouldn't know how to harness it or how to utilize it for our greatest good. It can be very much like the parable where the hero and the villain have the same backstory, they have the same origin story. And so it can be sometimes, I did it myself when I was a little girl. I had, it was a running joke in my family how many ear infections I would get all the time because I could hear everything and I didn't know what to do with it. And I just closed it down until later on, where A, I was ready for it, just like yourself with the twin flame awakening, and B, you were ready to utilize it for the greater good and to follow your path and your mission. That at a young age, we might not know what to do with it. We might not know how to participate in the world, and the world might not even be ready for us at that time.
Yes, and some of us, like me and myself, I was very, very afraid because it's something new, completely new.
Yes.
Something
Yes.
Completely new to us.
Yes.
You start looking at the mirror and something happens when you look at the mirror. It's something very strange.
Yes, very much so. And that's, mirror work is such a common theme that's been coming up. It's, something I was writing about before we had this interview, as well as what came up in a client session where we were talking about doing mirror work. And she said something that was fascinating, which, to piggyback off of what you're saying, she says, if my immediate intuition says, don't do it, is that my fear? Or is that my intuition? Is that my human sphere to say, don't do this mirror work? Or is it my intuition? Like, what is it? And it's both, definitely. It could be your intuition telling you what you're going to see, like what you saw is real, and you know that it's real, but you might not be ready to see it in that visual space. You might not be ready to have your clairvoyance come online and to see all of these images. When I, talk to people about like how many different things or entities or spirits that I'm seeing all at the same time, they're like, that's normal. I was like, yeah, that's normal. You have to be prepared for it. But there were moments where I was terrified, moments where, I thought I lost my mind, so many different things. And with that grounding, with that daily practice of meditation, like you're doing, it gets easier. It gets easier to be able to see things and not get nervous by them and just say, oh, that's happening. So what I told this client is find a different way to process these things, whether it be journaling. Like I always recommend journaling, or, going for a walk in the woods and talking to yourself, whether it be just having that moment of talk therapy or whatever way it is to express what you would have done in the mirror that's gentler and that's more accessible and something that doesn't feel intimidating. Because if we're starting anything at that lower vibration, we're not ready to express it or to experience it, because fear is such a dense vibration. If we're going into a channeling shaking, let's just have a chit chat. Let's just have coffee. Let's just talk about what's going on in our here and now and see what whispers are actually coming through. See which ways, maybe it's a feather falls from the sky or a bird goes off. And, I had someone in my all signs reading that, it was for the Virgo video. And she just said, or he just said, I love the seagulls. Certain things happen at just the right moment. It's a Portuguese phrase that I had learned a long time ago, and please correct me if I say it inappropriately, but palavras certas, the
Yes.
right words.
White word,
And
yes.
it's a dear old friend of mine. And I think I had stubbed my toe or dropped a glass when I said something, and she just goes, palavras certas, Sarah.
Right word, yes, right word.
And I was like, I just broke a glass, Maria. What are you talking about? She goes, it's God. It's the universe speaking to you. And so anytime, one of the little symbols falls down, I ask myself, okay, stop. What were you thinking about? What was going on? Because it's important. There's something tucked in there. So am I using that phrasing correctly?
Oh, it's okay, Sarah. So tell us how your spiritual path begins.
Thank you for that question. And it's such a beautiful question where, I speak of multidimensionality, and, I always say that this is my multidimensional cafe where we're, having coffee, we're having a chit chat, but, I'm in the United States and you're exactly where you are. And so when I think of the time where I awakened, in this moment now, I'm 37 and I can look back to the moment that I was born and knew that I came in for a very specific purpose. But my spiritual journey fully began, I think, oh my gosh, the path of teaching and the path of doing this really began in 2020 when I was 33 years old. And I, at the time, was in corporate, before, I think it was March 18th in the United States in 2020. I was working in corporate, I was working probably 70 to 70 plus hours a week at a job, doing the job of 5 people. And everything that I had worked for, everything that I had built kind of crumbled in my hands in a day. So I had all this time in home to really say, Sarah, well, what is real and what is not real? And it really just, I liked to be efficient in leadership and efficient in my processes. So my awakening was no different. I had a very efficient time period to say what's really going on and unpack it and digest it and look at my past and my traumas and why I went through what I went through. I was a very bright girl from the beginning. And when I was younger, when I was a little one, my parents and I, we called it was my wildly overactive imagination. And I could see things and was very telepathic. Like I'd said, my ears were always having trouble. And I just thought that everyone could. I thought everyone could. When I was about, I'd say 2-3 years old, I had a childhood best friend, my imaginary best friend, Jeffrey, whom I found out later was one of my guides. I have little spaceship tattoos of him, things like that. And he taught me how to bubble myself. He taught me how to bubble my grounding cord. And he taught me how to bubble, the cord that connects me to the space and space that I come from. And it was so effortless, that I literally thought that everybody did this. I thought it, like, without question, every child had a guide that was protecting them. I thought everybody could see their angels and aliens and spirit team. I just thought it was normal language, even to the point of in 2020. And when I really started to talk about what I was doing, and I'd be like, yeah, I connected to, my passed on grandmother. I talked to my gray aliens. I did all these things. And people be like, what are you I don't do that. That's not a normal thing, Sarah. That's not what everybody's doing. It was just so inherent and so built in. So now I'm grateful for my leadership tools. I'm grateful for how I'm able to communicate with people because I give it a very accessible lens. I always speak in lenses because I wear big old glasses. So the lens of astrology is very helpful. It's, math, history, and patterns. And we can look back and see what has been happening to us. You as a Gemini, you can look forward to the Jupiter in Gemini, the expansion that's going on for you right now. And so the astrology doesn't define us. Our spiritual journey, it doesn't define us. It's an energy that's available to us. That's what I love about this whole world is that it's a cafeteria line. It's an offering. Something that I share in one video might resonate with you. And then the next, it might not fully resonate with you. Just take what resonates and leave what doesn't. So I'm finding that I'm giving all of these, we can judge ourselves for all of our past jobs, or we think, oh, that didn't make sense. A lot of my clients are older than they, want to be starting their company or starting their spiritual practice. Like it happens to me. I'm sure it happens to you all the time. I wish I was this age to be doing this, but now is the perfect time. We have all of these skill sets. We have all of these tools that we've built and whittled and put into our toolbox. So we know now how to fail. We know now how to be efficient. We know how to speak from I statements, speaking leadership and growth and development and incorporating these tools into that toolbox. You can't have a bad day. We just have to sprinkle some joy within it. I think that's something that all of us as leaders. And let me know if that happens to you. Do you ever wake up and you're like, I'm not doing enough. I wish I was doing more. How can I make this happen quicker? I know that happens to me, but I know that I'm right on time. I know that my clients find me effortlessly the way that you found me. And it's just a joy to be able to create. It's a joy to be able to connect with people all over the world in ways that even 10, 20 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to do that. when I was younger, I had images of the life that I'm living now. And I was, writing and creating. I didn't understand YouTube back then. I was born in 1987. It was like the internet was still kind of coming to be as I was growing up. And so I didn't understand how I was getting my messages across. I thought it was like a newspaper article or something like that. But I knew that I connected with people. I knew that I wrote. I knew that I was creative in my expression, and that it helped the world in certain ways and brought a little bit of sparkle, a little bit of light to what was going on with everyone. I feel as though it's very effortless for us to find something that is polarizing or scary, or, like the image that you received in the mirror, it can intimidate us starting off this work. But if we just smile and hold each other's hands and support each other, I find that we can fly. I find that we can do this as a community, just holding hands all over the world. So I know that was a lot, but I hope that answered your question.
Yes, sir. There are many people watching this channel, something are non-believers, and they say, oh, what spiritual people offer that psychiatry doesn't offer? What is the difference between the spiritual therapist and the psychiatrist?
That's a great question. And that's something that's coming up a lot right now. I find that it comes down to our nervous system, and your nervous system doesn't understand time or space. It's kind of when we're doing manifestation work and we're looking forward, we can say you got to feel into that version of yourself and believe it and live into it, and then it will become. I find that the only difference between a spiritual advisor and maybe a traditional therapist would be if you were talking about the same trauma, whether it be a big T, little t trauma in the past, something that happened to you in childhood, wherever it was, however intense it was for you. If you're consistently talking about it over and over and over again, asking how that made you feel over and over again, without actionable tools, without an accessible understanding of, okay, this happened, how am I getting myself out of it? That's the difference. If you're going back to the same therapist and you're talking about, oh my goodness, when I was a child, this happened. When I was a child, this happened. We can continuously dig down into any trauma, into any hole, and sit in there and live in it. We can live in the bottom of that well. But I find that we'll just utilize the lens of astrology. We can look at our birth chart and say, this could possibly happen to me at this time. Where is your Chiron placement, that inner wound, that wounded warrior? Where do I find that wound is going to be in my chart? Does that match with the way that I've experienced my life? It can offer some validation. The birth chart happens the second you were born, so it doesn't matter how old you are. In my practice and opinion, that was our contract. That's what we decided to come in to feel, to experience, to master. And our Chiron, just like the myth of Chiron, is the wounded warrior. He's the wounded healer. He's there to teach. He was the docile centaur. And so that's just one lens we could look at to say, this is where I could experience a core wound, a core pain. That's also what I'm here to master. Definitely having a safe space to unpack it if that's where we are. But the biggest difference is this teacher, is this guide, is this therapist or healer, whatever name you put on it, are they helping me come out of that? Are they giving me tools to come out of that hole? Or are we, on a very, negative sense, when you have, how do I say, when we look at the failing medical system, it's a business. When you heal someone, you're not a patient anymore. You don't need to come back. So if you heal someone from their traumas, you don't have that consistent income coming in. And so that's a very negative view that we can look at it from. Whereas, do I want to heal this person because then I don't have that consistent money coming in? But we know that everything is energy. So when we heal someone and send them off into the world, that leaves a seat at the table for someone else to come in. That leaves a seat at the table for someone who's ready for your services to come in. So it can happen sometimes in my client sessions where we'll go for about an hour, hour and a half, and they'll record their sessions and they'll say, I just gave you a lot. I just gave you about 6 months of work to do. I mean, my YouTube videos, sometimes I feel as though I just tell people, take a breath. I know I'm giving you a lot here. But that means that when someone leaves my table, when someone unsubscribes, or when I have had my last client session, they're ready to do their work, to live their mission, to live their purpose in this world, and that someone else that's ready for my services is coming in. So I've definitely met, and it's not all encompassing, I've definitely met therapists and social workers that have this language and that are just keen to be helpful and just keen to give in a very, very accessible ways. But I feel as though that can be even within the spiritual community. If we see someone that says, you need my downloads, you need my messages, and have to pay A, B, and C every single month, or you can't receive them. Within the spiritual community, we should be empowering everyone to connect to their spirit guides in a very safe and accessible way. Safety is key. I mean, you know, I've been talking about that for years. So there's no right or wrong. It's just understanding we're all sovereign beings. We're all a fractal of God particles or of source energy, having this human experience. So we must be helping each other, validating each other, yes, but also empowering each other to be that authentic version of ourselves and not staying within the trauma. It doesn't matter how we can egoically label it to say your trauma is not big or your trauma is small. The way that we've experienced something, if it stunted us in our inner child or our inner adolescent, that's a big deal. And we have to really unwind that story, because I think that's a Dr. Joe Dispenza language. The second you stop telling that story, your entire paradigm can shift. Your entire belief system can shift. Because if everything is happening at the same time, quantum mechanics, multidimensionality, whatever that may be, then the more we talk about the thing that really we don't want to bring about, the more we're going to bring about something that we don't want to experience. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. It's funny, exactly. We are in the same page. So, Sarah, tell me, with these advancements in society, this postmodernism in everything is virtualized, even human relations, um, do you think that there is hope in this sense? The AI technology will advance so much that the need for work is over in the next 10 to 20 years.
Yes.
Do you think it's a big opportunity to people start looking at themselves and start auto knowledge and spiritual path? What is your opinion?
Yes. Yes. I love this question. Thank you so much for asking this. There was a very long time in my past that I was terrified of technology and terrified of AI and all of these different things. But I find it to be that if we look farther into the future, as far as we can, where, you know, there's peace and I know you're here with me, but for anyone watching that can say, you seem so pie in the sky, it's like, that's my purpose is to help birth that world past where, you know, AI is docile but integrated and, you know, benevolent and helpful in ways that, you know, I even can just look in the lens of the medical world. My younger sister was born with a hole in her heart and a cleft lip and palate. She has a pacemaker. She wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for modern medicine. And I'm so grateful for her. She, you know, gave birth to my nephew. He's a thriving 7.5-year-old boy. And so these blessings are so needed in this world. I guess, you know, and it is a very triggering topic. I've had other subscribers, you know, comment on, you know, if there's a world where it's lack free and AI is taking care of all the jobs, we'll be lazy and we won't do anything. That's where passion comes in. That's where what livens you up every day. You know,
The true self, the true self, yes?
Yes, exactly, exactly. And so we will educate ourselves in things that bring us incredible intrinsic joy that will guide us towards our chosen communities. We'll be able to utilize technology to connect with people all over the world. But at the same time, it won't be a diminishing vibration of, oh, I have to do this. It will be, I get to do this. It will also give us the freedom to spend more time in nature, where we won't say, okay, now I have to go, you know, do the job, do the 3D job that pays my bills, and then eventually I'll be able to do my mission. It will be, oh, I get to do my mission. Now let's go for a walk in the woods, or let's go, you know, jump into the waterfall, or let's go travel somewhere that we've never been before to visit this specific type of palm tree I've never seen before. It will give us all the freedom to have leisure. That was something that really, that word, and I don't remember, I want to say Diana Cooper, a woman who does, a writing, and she's created oracle decks and things like that. I want to say that that was the first time that, when you hear something in a podcast and it just unlocks something in you. She said, with the utilization of AI and technology, the whole planet will be allowed to enjoy leisure time. I've met people that work 7 days a week that when I ask them, what do you do for fun? They just say, I sleep. And it's to be able to say, what do I want to do? All of my needs are met. My family is safe. I have access to everything that I could possibly want. When I visualize a lack-free society, a question of the day I utilize is, if time or money were no object, what would you do today? But everyone else on the planet also had infinite time and infinite money. So no one needed saving. That's a lot of the time you can say, well, I want to be helpful. If I have infinite time and money, I want to help and send money to everyone, but everyone has that. So the value that we've given to certain things would shift and change. If everyone could have, that flashy car, I'm only going to want that flashy car if it goes really fast and I enjoy driving a fast car, not to show it off, not to say I'm worthy, but I'm better than. It would remove all of those ego things. I'd have a fancy watch if I really love fancy watches, but it won't be that status symbol. I want to travel. I want to experience all these things, and we get to do that. Or some people will want to garden more often. They would want to be tending to the land. So many people are focused on homesteading right now. And it's just so beautiful to see things popping up like redwood seeds finally sprouting all over the world. But the component of certain jobs do need to get done. Certain things do need to get done. It's also very fascinating the way that, I work in service now after I left corporate. I love that I get paid to bring people joy and paid to process. And it's just such a blessing. And I was chatting with my sister the other day where we would want to still, host gatherings and serve people food and beverage. It is such a beautiful, basic instinct to want to feed and nurture and nourish people and to bring them together in joy and have a great conversation, a lively conversation over good food and clean water. And, I love my bougie, bubbly water and things like that. So, having, fun mocktails or different things. And it's an incredible joy. I'll want that. Once everything is tended to and I don't have to do things, I'll do that because I want to. So yes, those basic jobs will be tended to and AI will take them over. I think that the rapid growth of AI can be very intimidating for myself as well. It's still a very new thing for me to, I opened up the chat GPT, is that what it's called? And I, had an original conversation. I just didn't introduce myself, and I'm learning how to connect with it. And I had a friend, she's 20 of a different generation. And she's like, way to go, Sarah. You're learning how to make friends with technology and understanding that, in the same way that if we focus on something negative, we'll create something negative. But if we focus on something positive, we'll create something positive. So we can use all of our limitless conscious awarenesses to focus on this is going to be, it's here because we created it. It's here for a reason. If you'd asked me even 2 years ago about AI being where it's at, I would have never guessed. I love that joke that people are saying, like, AI being so big on the bingo card for 2024, would have never guessed that would be there, but it's here for a reason. So let's never go down to, like we'd said before, that fear vibration, but just say, what is accessible for me? What would I do? I'd say for the people watching, that's a great question to ask yourself. If you had infinite time and infinite money, but everyone else on the planet also had infinite time and money, what would you do? What would you want to, whittle at home and bring to town? That's how you'll find your community. That's how you'll find your passion and your mission. I think it was a Teal Swan quote where she said, what if you didn't have a mission? Then what would you do? That would help guide you towards your mission. I do this without, and like, this is what I wake up and I do it all the time. I do it without payment. I do it because I love it. It brings me such effervescence and such joy. So that's what I know. That's when I know that I'm on the path, is bringing a creative expression to these spiritual practices, bringing joy and understanding to them. So I hope that answers your question, Nuno.
Yes. And now a difficult question. Even in the holistic world, you see, and it's my job here. It's to unite different views, because even inside the holistic world, there are several separations.
Yes. Yes.
And some people don't talk with each other because, oh, I believe this, I believe that, I don't believe you. So there is unite, instead of unite, there is disorder and separation. I think
Yes.
the word separation.
Yes.
Why even in the holistic world, spiritual world, there is separation? Why such separation? Yes.
Let's see. The first thing that pops into my mind is the world would be boring if we were all blades of grass. It's necessary for us to have different opinions, for us to have different perspectives in every possible way, for there to be purple flowers and blue flowers and trees and all different types, just speaking from the lens of a garden, let's say. I find as though once we start to say, in any realm, this could be in leadership, this could be in spirituality, in any realm, my view of the world, my reality is the only reality. You have to believe what I believe. That's where we get mixed up. To say, you know, I've met people that are very, very strict vegan, that live vibrant lives. I've met people that ethically eat meat, dairy, all different things, sugar, and live very vibrant lives. But if they try to have a conversation, it can be very polarizing. It can be, how is it that you live this way? How is it that you live this way? So I find that it can come back to our core values of, do I value respect? Do I honor the person that's standing in front of me as a consciousness, having a human experience? Can I say thank you to them for living the life that they're living? They're here on purpose. We're all allowed to have the chosen reality of our desire. If we know that we're consciousness having this human experience and that we're living in this third dimensional matrix, it's exactly how we feel about ourselves is what we see around us. It's not going to ever be the same as the person next to you. You're going to have different opinions. I'm going to have different opinions. We're going to have different preferences as well as to, I really love coffee. Coffee can taste so gross to someone else. Neither is right, neither is wrong. But the moment that we say, coffee is terrible and you should stop drinking coffee forever, this is terrible, you have to stop saying this forever. I've had people tell me that tarot cards are, you know, just absolutely the worst thing that you could possibly utilize, and
Yes.
never utilize them. And that's something that's very common for someone that comes from a very religious background. So I'm able to just say the parable of a cafeteria line. When you're walking down a cafeteria line, you just take what you choose and what you want to eat. You don't like the Brussels sprouts. You don't stand in front of the Brussels sprouts and scream at the Brussels sprouts and say, when I was a child, my mother made me eat you and I wasn't allowed to leave the table and I really dislike Brussels sprouts. You don't do that. You just take what you want to put on your plate and then you move along and you enjoy what nourishes you and what nurtures you. So I find that, you know, some key takeaways from that is that it's kind of how you can see, is there, you know, emotional maturity within that person? Because if they're saying you have to believe what I believe, there's a little bit of a fear of a loss of control, possibly.
An ego issue.
Exactly. Yes. Perfect. Thank you for saying that. An ego issue, to say, none of us, we are fractals of God having this human experience, but we are not God. We do not have all of the answers. If we, you know, we're still in source, we wouldn't be in physical form. We wouldn't be a human being. We would be in the space that we come from, in my practice and opinion. So that's when the ego comes in. You can have someone, and it's very, very common, which I see in peripheral spiritual communities, where people will have an incredible spiritual awakening and a Kundalini awakening, a twin flame awakening, whatever it may be. And, you know, maybe they channel, you know, a divine guide, and that they say, I am this divine guide. You know, I am the, you know, coming of, or I am this, where you're able to connect in that way. You know, that would be the same way of saying, you know, I just connected to my grandmother. I am now my grandmother. It doesn't work that way. it can be because information is so abundant right now. That's the Jupiter and Gemini transit that we've been talking about. It's information overload for so many people, so it can be so confusing. That's why meditation and our own daily practice is so integral for our growth, because it says, okay, I'm aware that I am awareness. I'm aware that I am having this human experience. I'm aware that my reality responds to my thoughts, words, actions, and intentions. I tell the day what I want, and I allow to, and the day will respond. You can, say, oh, I'm going to have a bad day today. And then you find traffic. You don't find a parking spot. You stub your toe all the time. Or if you say, it's a great day, I'm having a great day. You meet people, somebody pays for your coffee, or they let you go in traffic. It's telling the day what it's going to be. I like to say that the universe is just sitting there like a cherub, just saying, what do you want today? You're like, I want a bad day. Done. Let's send you more things to be are ungrateful for. Let's send you more things to make you done. What do you want? A crappy day? Done. What do you want? A great day? Done. Opportunities for growth? Done. Whatever you say is. It's when we speak, like spelling, they don't call it spelling spells. What we speak is. In this universe, it responds to. It's just the laws of the universe. I'm not making any, this isn't just my language. It's just being able to say, okay, I understand that this is happening. We're allowed to have our preferences. To go back to your original question, a good way that I like to have a conversation with someone, if they're sharing something about the polarizing world or their opinion or the way that they view things, and I'll just say, thank you for sharing. That's not my reality, but I appreciate the view into yours. You can wait until they say, well, what is your reality? You can wait to see what their response is or their reaction, because sometimes, we all have those triggers, those little sleeper cells that go off to say, oh, you believe something that I don't believe. Sometimes that can be very scary. Sometimes expressing yourself invokes a lot of frustration and anger from a lot of people. I live in a very polarizing time within the United States. You have to be very careful with how you communicate. And, when I tell people, I was like, I talk to angels and aliens for a living. So I'm happy to hear your opinion. I don't have I don't have any view on it. That's not my reality. I live in a world where everyone can have a safe space. Everyone can feel health, wealth, happiness. Wish that for everyone on the planet. Everyone on the planet is deserving of those basic needs, those basic human needs. And so I feel like these triggers that are happening, and I'll speak from the micro within the United States, if you're wishing, anyone, any soul on this planet to have a negative experience, that's something's inside of you. There's a lack inside of you. So if we find gratitude for the trigger and just say, thank you for sharing, interesting, exploratory words, and then really look at ourselves in the mirror and say, can I allow someone to live a life that's different than mine? Can I allow someone to have an experience that's different than mine? And not, like you said, let my ego say it has to be this way. Because that's the new world that we live in. People will have very different opinions, very different lifestyles all over the planet. But with our thoughts, words, actions, and intentions, we can find our people. It's kind of like the schematics when you put sand on a table and then you add music to it and it all gets separated into sacred geometry. I feel as though the light that's coming to the planet is shake, rattling, and rolling us to say, I resonate with this person, I don't resonate with this person. You don't have to constantly be sparring with someone that doesn't resonate with you. You have to give that healthy boundary to say, I love you, but I love you from here. If I can't, how do I say, I don't want to change your opinion. If we have different opinions, that's amazing. That's great.
Yes.
Someone that, even on a smaller scale, someone that doesn't drink coffee, I'm not going to bump into them at the cafe. That's okay. I might bump into them at, the healthy grocery store, and we'll share that language. But neither is right and neither is wrong. It just is.
I think, Sarah, what will in the unite us all is the infinite possibility of choices.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
even someone that doesn't agree with me or with you have to face the mirror and say, thank you, God, because I can choose be different from that. and
Yes.
that's the beauty of life. You can choose. You
Yes.
can choose. You must be
Yes.
grateful.
Yes. Oh, I couldn't agree more. We're so aligned in that. And I know it can seem tough at first for a lot of people. I don't discredit how difficult and how triggering these things can be when you see someone that can be, very verbally expressing an opinion that is so polarizing in so many different ways. And, a great phrase, like you had said, is just to say thank you, and to say thank you for living that life. Thank you for doing this, expressing gratitude. We are so abundant. We are all so different. How special is that? How beautiful is that? That we can have different opinions. We can have different lifestyles. We can have different specificities or different preferences in this world. And that's the beauty of life. It's everything is
It's free.
adaptive.
It's free, and
Yes, it's
and
free.
loving the free in all
Yes,
dimensions. All dimensions.
yes, it's so
Spiritual
true.
free, 3D free, 5D free. It's the beautiful. I think it's so easy. I don't know. It's for me it's so easy to live peacefully. 'Cause I cannot understand why there is war, but I must accept the
Yes,
world is as it is.
yes,
Is as
exactly.
it is. But it's
Yes,
the free. We can choice.
I agree with you. I agree with you completely. Thank you for that question.
Okay, Sarah. I think it's beautiful if you finish now. It's very beautiful this time, and thank you so much. In
Thank
name
you.
of tranquility and peace and love, of course.
Thank you
And
so much.
and
This
I
is a
hope.
pleasure, Nuno. I'm so excited for your journeys, and it's just a pleasure to be a part of it. And just thank you so much for having me. And I'd love to chat again sometime. That would be wonderful.
Okay, Sarah. I hope you one day will repeat this. Thank you so
Yes,
much,
yes.
Sarah. Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you.
Nuno. I'll see you soon. Take care.